A warm welcome was invoked by Father General Sosa, and the much-beloved pontiff, speaking in Spanish, gave his address to the faithful Jesuits.
Padilla, las cosas que se hacen dentro de ese espacio.
At the conclusion of his speech, the Holy Father joined Father General and the Jesuit delegates for a large group photo, a photo that will historically capture this special day when the first Jesuit Pope comes to a Jesuit general congregation.
That's not the idea of it in the Orthodox Church. That's Rome, and not even the whole of Rome. It's false. Those are the worst of the Catholics, the Inquisitors, the Jesuits. And there could not be such a fantastic creature as your Inquisitor. What are the sins of mankind they take on themselves? Who are these keepers of the mystery who have taken some curse upon themselves for the happiness of mankind? When have they been seen? We know the Jesuits. They are spoken ill of, but surely they are not what you describe? They are not that at all. Not at all. They are simply the Romish army for the earthly sovereignty of the world in the future, with the Pontiff of Rome for emperor. That's their ideal. But there's no sort of mystery or lofty melancholy about it. It's simple lust of power or filthy earthly gain, of domination, something like a universal serfdom with them as masters. That's all they stand for. They don't even believe in God, perhaps. "200 years of incessant and unscrupulous cultivation of the rich and noble, especially rich widows and princes, of commercial and financial enterprise in all parts of the world, and of encroachments on the possessions of rival religious bodies, had made the Jesuits an extraordinarily wealthy body. They were very wealthy and powerful, the guides of popes and kings. They lurked in the shadow of nearly every throne. Yet in the 18th century they were contemptuously driven out of one Catholic country after another, and in 1773 the Pope, to quote his own words, suppressed and abolished the society forever. It is another unique distinction on the famous organization. The society was expelled from France to the intense joy of most of the people. In writing of the hypocrisy and crookedness of the Jesuits, one does not pick out an individual here and there. As is well known, most of their leading theologians held that a king might be assassinated for a good cause, which to them meant mainly the interest of religion, which in turn meant the protection of its noblest representatives, the Jesuits. We must yet bear in mind what a potent and unscrupulous factor the Roman Church is. It is the largest secret society in the world, beside which Freemasonry is but a pygmy. Think of even a part of it, the Jesuit Society, with its nihilist adherents in Russia, its socialist allies in Germany, its Fenians and nationalists in Ireland, its accomplices and its slaves in its power. Think of that society which has not scrupled to stir up the most bloody wars between nations, in order to advance its purposes. So powerful, even at that time, were the intrigues of the Romanist prelates and Jesuits. The Jesuit reviewer in the Stimmen aus Maria Lack, March 1881, remarked, "This is no bad hint for English politicians, and for foreign politicians too, meaning that all those statesmen in all countries who act against the Roman Catholic Church are doomed to destruction." It is well known that the Jesuits were expelled from every country of Europe, and even put under the ban of the Pope, and dissolved by papal bull, on account of their restless intrigues in every country, their nefarious and immoral policy, and their audacious crimes. They insist that church and state shall be united wheresoever they are separate, and that the basis of such union shall be the subordination of the state to the church. At what, then, do the Jesuits aim? According to them, they only seek the greater glory of God, but if you examine the facts, you will find that they aim at universal dominion alone. They have rendered themselves indispensable to the Pope, who, without them, could not exist, because Catholicism is identified with them. They have rendered themselves indispensable to governors and hold revolutions in their hands. And in this way, either under one name or another, it is they who rule the world, who have reduced it to such perversion of ideas that he can neither be a good citizen nor a good Catholic who is not a Jesuit.
Questo libro offre un sguardo su come queste tre istituzioni pontificie portano avanti la missione affidata dai papi alla Compagnia di Gesù. A nome di tutti i presenti, studenti, docenti, amministratori, dipendenti, alunni, collaboratori e benefattori, desidero esprimere immensa gratitudine per la missione che ci ha affidato: servire la Chiesa universale.
The political power of the Roman Catholic Church in America was proclaimed to the non-Catholic politicians in a speech delivered by Archbishop Quigley, May 4, 1903, at the Holy Name Roman Catholic School, Chicago, and which appeared in part in the Chicago Tribune, May 5, 1903. In 50 years, Chicago will be exclusively Catholic. The same may be said of Greater New York and the chain of big cities stretching across the continent to San Francisco. Nothing can stand against the Church. I'd like to see the politician who would try to rule against the Church in Chicago. His reign would be short indeed. The first duty of a devout Romanist is, according to all Jesuitical authority, all modern Roman Catholic moral theological teaching is Jesuitical, to an infallible Pope. A Catholic is a Romanist first, an American, an Englishman, or a German a long way after. This is the doctrine taught at the Roman Catholic University at Washington and at the Georgetown Jesuitical College, both at your very door, and by every Catholic educational institution in America and the world over. The Pope being, according to Jesuit theology, king of all earthly kings, ruler of all earthly rulers, having power from on high to invalidate and suppress all legislation framed by Congress, Parliament, or any other lawmaking instrumentality on earth, is the sovereign to whom devoted confession-going Romanists owe first allegiance. Him, first, must they serve, even to the extent of violating oaths of office, injuring neighbor and fellow citizen, betraying the country affording them life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. General Lafayette, reared and educated a Roman Catholic, uttered this prophecy: "It is my opinion that if the liberties of this country, the United States of America, are destroyed, it will be by the subtlety of the Roman Catholic Jesuit priests, for they are the most crafty, dangerous enemies to civil and religious liberty. They have instigated most of the wars of Europe." In Roman Catholic circles, so well is the power of the Jesuit recognized that the general of the Jesuits is called the Black Pope, in contrast to the Pope who, wearing white always, is called the White Pope. And it is implied that the Black Pope rules the White Pope, even while the former is obliged to make, at least, a show of submission to the latter. Now Rome is perfectly consistent in her demand for the control of civil government. If her teaching were true, that there is no salvation outside the Church, she is bound to compel all to belong to the Church, even if she has to call in the civil power to help her to enforce submission. This power she has ever invoked and utilized. The Society of Jesus is the enemy of men. The whole human race should unite over its overthrow. Earth and heaven should rejoice together over its tomb. For there is no alternative between its total extirpation and the absolute corruption and degradation of mankind. Its emissaries are here. And who are these emissaries? They are Jesuits. The Society of Men, after exerting their tyranny for upwards of 200 years, at length became so formidable to the world, threatening the entire subversion of all social order, that even the Pope, whose devoted subjects they are, and must be, by the vow of their society, was compelled to dissolve them. From their vow of unqualified submission to the sovereign pontiff, they have been appropriately called the Pope's bodyguard. And do Americans need to be told what Jesuits are? If any are ignorant, let them inform themselves of their history without delay. No time is to be lost. Their workings are before you in every day's events. They are a secret society, a sort of Masonic order, with superadded features of most revolting odiousness, and 1,000 times more dangerous. Jesuits, an ecclesiastical order proverbial through the world for cunning, duplicity, and total want of moral principle, an order so skilled in all the arts of deception that even in Catholic countries, in Italy itself, it became intolerable and the people required its suppression. Henry IV, King of France, after being wounded by an assassin sent by the Jesuits, said, "I am compelled to do one of these two things. Either recall the Jesuits, free them from the infamy and disgrace with which they are covered, or to expel them in a more absolute manner, and prevent them from approaching either my person or my kingdom. But then we will drive them to despair and to the resolution of attempting my life again, which would render it so miserable to me, being always under the apprehension of being murdered or poisoned. For these people have correspondents everywhere, and are so very skillful in disposing the minds of men to whatever they wish, that I think it would be better that I should be already dead." The Jesuits are a military organization, not a religious order. Their chief is a general of an army, not a mere father abbot of a monastery. And the aim of this organization is power. Power is the most despotic exercise. Absolute power, universal power, power to control the world by the volition of a single man. Jesuitism is the most absolute of despotisms, and at the same time the greatest and the most enormous of abuses. The general of the Jesuits insists on being master, sovereign, over the sovereign. Wherever the Jesuits are admitted, they will be masters, cost what it may. Their society is by nature dictatorial, and therefore it is the irreconcilable enemy of all constituted authority. Every act, every crime, however atrocious, is a meritorious work, if committed for the interest of the Society of the Jesuits, or by the order of its general.
Especially I work in dealing with the infiltration of churches and religious institutions as well as government. That cover a tremendous number of institutions.
And the purpose of that infiltration was what for?
Well, the purpose is what the Roman Catholic system has all the time as her own purpose, is to infiltrate, to penetrate all the areas of life where the Roman Catholic can have control and access for the coming world government. What that means is, in preparation for that world government, the Roman Catholic institution, especially since the establishment of the Jesuit order in 1541, throughout all these 500 years, they've been in preparation and through infiltration and penetration of every level of society in order to take over the world politically and religiously. There are two doctrines that define very well these dangerous goals of the Roman Catholic institution. Two doctrines define this very well. One is called the doctrine of the apostolic succession, and that is dealing with the papacy. And the other is the doctrine, the temporal power, and that is dealing with world government. Of course, both, because you can see that even the Pope and his own individual office, he meet those requirements. He is not only the head of his church, as he called himself, John Paul II, the present Pope. He said he is the pastor of his church. He is not only that, but he is the head of his state, of his country. What that means, he is the head of a political state. both combinations are in one office. They are, in prophetically speaking, that is what we see in the book of Revelation. The political power always hand to hand with the religious power.